This week's episode of Life Planning 101 originally aired in 2019. Please enjoy. Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services in Eastland, Texas. Tune in every week as we share important information to help you and your family live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, legacy and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And welcome in Life Planning 101 right here on KTX KDY. Terry Slave is with you, joined as always by Angela Kennedy Robinson. Good morning, Angela.
Good Monday morning, and so happy to be here on this Monday morning. Well, whatever morning I guess you're listening to the show,
Could be Saturday morning.
Yeah, it could be Saturday morning. But, it's funny. We had a topic, and I probably will start out by getting in trouble with the compliance team for saying this. But when we first wrote out the article, we got claimed as being a little too pushy on the subject. And, it is a subject that we tend to be pushy on because we're very passionate about it. And so I'm putting a disclosure at the beginning of the show that if you aren't ready for some passion, you might want to just turn off the radio right now.
Passion is good.
Passion is good, but we're passionate because, we care about the families that we work with. And we have worked with some families that have been with us. My goodness, we were looking at one the other day that's been with us since 1991.
Wow.
And so, these are people that become family to us. And when we see something happen to them or, happen because of some inaction that they didn't take, it is heart-wrenching. It really hurts. And it's one of those things that you wish you had a magic wand and you were able to fix things, and you can't. And that's a really puts us in that place of passion. I don't know how else to put it to you.
Especially if it's a situation where you warned them about it, but they didn't heed the warning.
Exactly. And, and I think, a lot of us, what's that old saying? I never get my sayings right, so I'm going to mess this up totally, about the teacher isn't there until you're ready for them, or the lesson isn't there until you're ready to be taught.
Sort of like the older you get, you realize your parents did know something.
Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's so true. I can't tell you how many times we have heard from families that we've worked with for like 10 years that I wish we would have just listened to you. I wish we would have just done this. I wish we would have just done that because you told us to do this.
Right.
And, we can only help people that want to be helped. And obviously, we always tell people it's always your decisions. It's your life. It's your money. It's your everything. It is your decision. But our job is to be candid with you and tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. Otherwise, you probably need to find another advisor because we're just not that type of firm,
Right.
We're going to be that candid. And I want to start out today by telling a story about a lady that was there when I started working. And it was one of the first things that I witnessed coming into the business, a long-term story, and it was heartbreaking. She and her husband had worked at a university for decades, and they were very successful. They were very high on life. They truly thrived in what Jesus Christ had planned for them. They had, things lined out of what they were going to do with their missionary work and travel and all of this after retirement. And they were really excited, and they were good stewards of their money. They did everything right. And we got to meet them towards the end of that retirement period. Well, when we finally started working with him, it was too little too late. He had developed Alzheimer's. And they didn't have any type of long-term care insurance, of course, right? And so, and as the story goes, she's tried to take care of him for as long as she could. She kept working part-time, and he was, I think at that time, he was 65 or 66. He was about ready to retire anyway, and she was right behind him.
Right.
So she was going to work a couple more years, and then they were going to venture off on this bucket list they had planned, right? Enjoy life, right? And so she tried to take care of him as long as she could. She finally had to quit working to be home with him all the time to take care of him. And then it got so bad that, and she was healthy, vibrant, physically capable, everything was good. But it finally got to the point that she couldn't take care of him. She had to get help. Physically, she wasn't able to do it, and it wasn't because of her physique. It was just because things were getting out of control. And then he would start to disappear. And so eventually it became she had to put him in a memory care facility. She did not have a choice. And this so happened to be about the time that she put him in the facility, and all this cost was generating right before then. But we all remember the Great Recession of 2008. And this so happened to be right about that same time. So you can imagine the impact that their portfolio was having, even as we had taken tons of risk off the table, there was no room to hide for, those types of issues, because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what the cost is going to be. You don't know how long you're going to be able to stay at home or how long you're not going to be able to do. And there was so many what ifs that the only thing you could really do was go to cash and just wait, right? So it was a horrible, horrible instance, and ended up about, I think, close to 3/4 of what they had saved for retirement was eaten up through healthcare. And so, end of the day, he passes, and you would think at that time it's one of those bittersweet moments, right? That you feel all this weight, and obviously the emotional weight's gone, the physical weight's gone off of her shoulders. But then to look up and see what she's left with was a whole different dynamic. And I had never seen this in a person before. I'd never seen a person that was so strong still try to remain strong in her faith and everything else, but struggle so much. And you could just see the pain. You were just, everything she had dreamed and wanted to do with her husband was not a dream. It was not an ability to be able to do. And here she was, young, still healthy, vibrant, and what's she going to do? Is she going to live off of less, or is she going to go back to work, or whatever else, right? And, these are stories nobody wants to hear. They don't.
But they need to be heard because it's real life.
It's real life. And, I tell her all the time, I said, you're a testament. You're a testament. Talk to as many people as you can, because that is being able to do God's will in a way that you have no idea, because the physical and spiritual piece of that comes with caretaking, and then the financial aspect and the burden that lays down on you on top of all that is so much for someone that if they could at all avoid it, what would that mean for their family, right? So when we come back on the show, what we're going to talk about today is I want to talk about the facts and what's actually out there, because I think there's a lot of myths. I think there's a lot of it won't happen to me. I think it's a lot of, this is something I don't need to take care of till I'm 60, 70, whatever that ripe old age is that you think you need to start taking care of it. I'll be honest with you. My husband's, he won't want me to say this, in his 40s, and we've already been able to take care of his. And the reason why, you're going to find out, and you aren't going to want to miss this when we come back on Life Planning 101.
Welcome back in segment 2, Life Planning 101 on this beautiful Monday morning. Angela has some passionate information to share.
That's a good way to intro this topic, isn't it? Rather than good, bad, just passionate. Passionate information to share. Yes, and if you missed the last segment of the show, I highly recommend you go back on and you listen to it, because it's a story and about an amazing woman I cannot tell you how much I respect this woman and what she's been through and what she's continued to do with her life thereafter. But it's a story that everybody needs to hear. And why is it a story that everybody needs to hear? Is because she went through something that people sometimes don't believe it'll never happen to me. And there's a fact. This is not a chance. This is not an idea. There's a fact that 70%, 7 in 10 people will need long-term care. 70%. Okay, that is not odds that I would want to go against. Well, maybe I do go against them when I gamble in Vegas. But obviously, if I could be for my odds, I'd be gambling every day, right? That's exactly right. So 7 in 10, that is a huge number. And, I think when people look at this, I don't think anybody would ever leave their spouse, their wife, in the situation that she was left in. I know he wouldn't have. I know
not intentionally.
Not intentionally. It wouldn't happen. And even more credit to them. Back then, it wasn't such what I call an epidemic. Today, though, we know better. And, you think about why does it happen? Well, it happens because people don't know what they don't know. They don't know. That's why we do this show, so people know.
No.
Right? It happens because of deferment. A lot of people say, well, I can take care of that in 10 years, or I'm not ready to start paying for that yet, or I'm not ready to start funding that yet. I've got better things to do. Yeah, that could be it. And we're going to talk about that in detail. And then there's the last of what I'd like to say is just arrogance. It'll never happen to me. And, you know, I mean, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but take yourself out of it and really ask yourself that question again, because this isn't about you.
Right.
I hate to say that, but it's not. It's about the people that you leave behind to care for you. And I was having a great conversation with a gentleman that turns 50 years old yesterday, and we were talking about the importance of healthcare, and he got it. You know, his wife is younger than he is, and he says, I don't want her to have to be doing this. I don't want her to have that worry. I don't want her to have to physically be taking care of me. She needs to be able to continue to live life, and he got it. Well, why did he get it? Why does he get it at 49 years old and someone not get it at 65? You know, that's the conundrum. And the only thing that I can say is you're some of your circumstances. So if you've seen it happen to someone that's close to you, then you get it.
Sure.
If you haven't, you don't, right? And I guess I'm blessed to be in this industry because I've seen it enough that it's got me scared to death. Because it is an epidemic, and it's not scared to death in a way that it will happen to me. It's scared to death in a way that if I don't take care of this financially, I'm laying such a big burden on my spouse that, you know, I might as well just say I don't love you, right? I could care less what you're going to be left with and what you're going to have to face, because it is emotional, it is physical, it is spiritual on the entire family. And then you add the financial pressure on top of that. Oh my Lord. You know, sometimes it's just like, can I wake up the next day? And I've heard people ask that question. And that's really, really sad. We've got,
how do I go on?
How do I go on, right? When they're having to be that caretaker and financially having to do it. Right now, I mean, we've got several widows and widowers that are victims of that situation. But we have right now 6 families that are on some type of long-term care services and facing that, some of which have the proper funding in place to be able to take care of it, and some of which don't. And I'm going to tell you the difference between those two situations, night and day. It's not even a question about finances. Oh, we're good. We're good on that part. You know, they're talking about more, how can we make this better for mom? How can we do this better for my spouse? Or, you know, I'd like to see this done. Or, you know, I'm still riding horses. This is a real story. I'm still riding horses while the spouse is on care. Okay. How many spouses could say that if they're having to be the caregiver, right? It wouldn't be happening,
no.
Right? And, you know, we don't think about those things. We don't think about that physical and emotional aspect of it. But it's so money is not everything. Money does provide for things to be able to happen. And that's the key. So, you know, I think it's something that you have to ask yourself if you can put at bay. And, you know, we talked a little bit about why people do it when they don't know what they don't know. Well, now you know. You got the stats out there. You need to be thinking of it. And really, you know, I mentioned, I think a disclosure to that would be there's 2 types of people that absolutely do not need to be thinking about long-term health care funding. And the first of which is someone that is poverty level and you plan to go on government assistance.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, you probably don't need to be thinking about it. The second, and a lot of people don't understand what that really means, and you need to talk to someone about what that really means, because you may still have 6 figures of net worth and be at poverty level, according to the government. So you need to understand that.
Sure.
The second thing is someone that is mega wealthy. Okay, may not want to consider it.
And we say mega, we're talking mega.
I'm talking mega.
Wealthy.
I'm talking not a 4-figure net worth. I'm talking a 5-figure plus net worth.
Sure.
And even then, I say may. Okay.
Right.
And the reason why is I will tell you this. When you designate a sum of money over to a bucket, then it allows you to say, that's what that's for. And it's okay to use that. When you never do that, and someone gets in this situation, they feel financial pressure. I know people that have that, or I say 4-figure, 6-figure, definitely not a 6-figure, definitely not a 7-figure. It has to be an 8-figure net worth before we even start thinking about May, right?
Right.
I was thinking in K's.
Gotcha.
Okay, so anyway, but if you have somebody that has that $10 million plus net worth, I know several of them that worry about running out of money.
And a lot of times that 10-figure net worth is not liquid net worth.
Right. It could not be liquid. And even if it is, they're worried about running out of money, because I promise you, someone that has, that 8 figures, they live higher, they live from a higher standard of living standpoint than someone that has 7 figures.
Sure.
They just are. Their taxes are higher. Forget everything else, their taxes are higher. So, they have this in the back of their mind. Am I going to run out of money? In fact, the 49-year-old I met with yesterday, that was the conversation. He's looking at retirement in the near future, and what am I going to do? And, the guy's worth, a lot of money, but to him, it's just enough money. So what happens, and like I mentioned, we were talking about long-term health care for him. Why were we doing that? Well, it okayed that bucket of money to be spent on that,
right,
if it's ever needed. So no one has to worry, is this tapping into that lifestyle bucket of what I'm going to need to be able to live?
And the person that says that it'll never happen to me, do you buy house insurance?
Right, exactly.
The best insurance policy you can ever have is the one you never use.
That's exactly right. So we're going to talk about funding when we come back on the show, because there's multiple ways to do this, and I think this is something that people need to really get a grasp on, so to help them make wise decisions about what to do with that long-term health care plan.
Final segment, Life Planning 101. Great information from Angela, and she has more right now.
Yes, and we're talking about long-term health care. Subject everybody loves, right?
At least it's not taxes.
At least it's not taxes. Yeah, we'll save that one for another day. But, I want to take you back to just the cost of what you're actually looking at, and why this is so financially devastating. So if we're looking at care today, we're seeing in the areas that we work, we're seeing anywhere from $4,000 a month up to about $8,500 a month of care. Okay, that's today. So I also want you to think about the baby boomers. They have made everything do what?
Go up.
Boom. Right? That's why they're called boomers, right? So you think about the iPhones. We wouldn't have iPhones if it wasn't for the baby boomers. You think about the housing market. They made it boom, right? Colleges, they had kids, made
they
it
have
boom.
their own holiday coming up, 4th of July, right?
Exactly. Everything. So much you think about when they start needing health care. What's going to happen?
Boom.
Boom. Do you think those prices are going to go down?
No.
No, it's not. And if you look at the national media, and I actually wrote this down, $7,400 to $8,300 a month right now for nursing home care. Whoa.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. And the oldest baby boomer right now is 73 years old. So not really even at care age for the majority of them. Wow. So we're really headed for something. And I'm going to tell you, the underwriters know this. The insurance companies know this, because, and the reason I wrote this article, because our favorite type of product that we've used for long-term care over the past decade or so just went up in pricing. You ready for this? How much do you think?
10%?
20.
Ooh.
20% increase in their pricing. Okay. Why are they doing that? They see it.
They see it coming.
They see it coming. I looked at a policy for, this would be 7 family. I looked at a policy this morning before I was coming here, because we're going to have to help a lady get on claim. And she has an unlimited policy, right? Pays for an unlimited number of years. They don't make them like that anymore for a traditional long-term care policy. Why would they take that benefit away?
Because of what's fixing to happen.
Right, because of what's happening. We're also seeing every year we get tons of letters from our clients that were on traditional policies about their prices increasing 15 to 20% in 1 year. Why is that happening?
Same reason,
right? So pricing is getting worse. Carriers, the underwriting is getting tougher to get someone on a long-term care policy, and the benefits are going away. And so when I said, why did we look at it at our age? Because I'm afraid by the time that I would actually get old enough to start considering a long-term care policy, it won't be there. I won't have the options, right?
Right.
So, do it while the getting's good. And I think that this is the thing, is that a lot of people don't understand. You don't have to rent a policy. It's not like what it used to be. In fact, most of the time I would recommend against that, because, and I'm not saying all the time I would recommend against it, but most of the time, because it's a use it or lose it, the price increases that are there, you can't get unlimited, and it's expensive to do it. So there's tons of ways to do this. You can actually self-fund, obviously. That's always a way to do it. It's probably the most expensive way to do it. But there's even policy. I was looking at something last week where you could drop in, say $1, and you get $3 of benefit day one for $1, so to speak. And it's a 30-minute questionnaire, and 98% of people are approved for it on average. Yeah, it's impressive. And so, it's just your own dollars multiplied by 3. Wow, right? So, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's more of an asset based, right? You're dropping in money to be able to receive a return. And we're seeing more and more of that. Life insurance companies have been a wonderful resource, because they're creating hybrid policies to put riders on policies to pay out that death benefit early if they're needed. So, what if you could have your cake and eat it too? You need life insurance and you need long-term care, and you could combine both issues if it made sense.
Sure.
Right? There's policies that pay out upon the second death, that you could access that death benefit, but then it's an inheritance for your children if you never need it, right? Or if you get mad at your children, you can cash it in if you don't like it, right? Because there's cash value. So, it's not a one size fits all. And I think that's where people, they hear long-term care, they've had a story in the back of their mind, someone having a policy, and maybe it wasn't even a policy that was that great. And I'm going to warn you about that. You need to make sure it covers what you want it to cover and how you want it to cover. And that's a whole different topic for another day, but it's extremely important. But I think, the biggest thing is to have some type of plan for at least partial funding. Have some type of plan that's the first money that you use. So it gives that person, that survivor, whether it's your spouse or your children, the okay and the permission to use this money first. Some type of care to be able to have a choice. Women, I think I've mentioned this on the show, single women, buy long-term care quicker than anybody else.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know why? Well, I don't want just anywhere to be taking care of me, and I don't want just anything to be happening to me. I want that to be able to...
Want a little control.
Yes. Have you thought about it from that angle?
Yeah.
You have no control if you're at the mercy of being cheap, right?
Absolutely.
So, just ask yourself, what do you want for your future self? But if it's not for your future self, what do you want for your survivors? And they're not going to put you in a place that's cheap. I promise you that. Because it's just like, why do you think people spend so much on their funerals, on survivors' funerals? It's emotional.
Right.
It's emotional. They're going to put you on that golf course because you love to golf. Even if you can't even understand that you're looking at a golf course, they're still going to stick you on a golf course, right? If they have the option to do it. Right. So, it is emotional. It is an option. And, I think the thing to realize is that this is an industry of funding that is tightening so quickly that you need to be thinking about it. And if you're in your 40s, you need to be thinking about it. If you're 50s, 60s, 70s and haven't done anything, if you're in your 80s, you need to be asking, what can I do?
What's my options?
What are my options now? Because there's still things that may be able to be done. We have an 83-year-old that we're actually doing something for right now that's going to give her about that 3-to-1 that we talked about earlier. Pretty impressive,
yes.
Right? So, there's things that you can be able to do. And, the question you have to ask yourself is, would a long-term health care event devastate your family? And if the answer is maybe or yes,
do something.
With that, my name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. God bless everyone. Prayers for all of those families in care, and thank you for letting us share your stories to be able to help make other people's lives better. With that, have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Smart Money Group and Kennedy Financial Services. If you have questions, you can email them to lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. Don't forget to learn how our sister company can assist you with all of your tax, bookkeeping, and consulting needs. You can find out more at briscoeandassociates.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more Life Planning 101. The opinions expressed herein are those of the firm and are subject to change without notice. The opinions referenced are as of the date of publication and are subject to change due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass. Any opinions, projections, or forward-looking statements expressed herein are solely those of the author, may differ from the views or opinions expressed by other areas of the firm, and are only for general informational purposes as of the date indicated. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Smart Money Group LLC. Kennedy Financial Services and Smart Money Group LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by Calton & Associates Incorporated.